Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. It's great to see so many of you here again with us today. Welcome. This is the 8th in our series of Make Your Mark webinars. And today we're going to be talking about getting back to the office safely and sustainably post-COVID. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers today. We've got Claire Elliott from Optra, Matthew Marks from Palite, and Simone, Managing Director at Commercial. And we're going to let them do some proper introductions shortly, which Sam's going to lead. I'm going to hand over to Sam, and then we'll get started.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well in this sweltering heat in the UK. My name's Sam Kinnear. I'm Business Development Manager here at the Planet Mark. Imagine we've got a lot of Planet Mark holders joining us today, but for those of you who aren't familiar with the Planet Mark, we're a sustainability certification whose principal goal is to help businesses measure and reduce their carbon. We do that in a kind of unique method built around measurement, engagement, and then communication. So yes, really looking forward to diving into this. So I'll hand back to you, Kendall.
Thanks, Sam. And we'll hear more from Sam and all our speakers shortly. I'm just going to run through, as usual, some quick logisticy bits. So on housekeeping, you'll have joined on mute and with your video off, that's fine. No worries. If you want to say hello, please pop those hellos in the chat. If you have any questions, we're going to have 10-15 minutes at the end for questions. So if you could just pop any of your Q&A on the Q&A icons. So if you pop them in there, and you can upvote on questions too. So if you see other people asking questions that you're interested to know the answer to, you can upvote on those questions and they'll get bumped to the top of the list, the Q&A section, which Sam's going to lead. Yeah, please upvote in there. We will also be doing a poll at the end. You don't need to worry about that until then. It should just pop up and be fairly straightforward, and we'll go through that in a minute. In terms of an agenda, we've got a little bit of scene setting from Sam and I, take a few minutes, and then we're just going to dive into the meat of the session today with our panelists, and Sam's going to lead a discussion with Claire, Matt and Simone around what they've been doing at Optra, Palite and Commercial. We'll then, as I mentioned, have a Q&A section at the end with a few closing remarks. And then for those of you who want to join and are able to join, we're going to offer an optional networking session afterwards today for about 30 or 40 minutes. That's what the poll will be about. So if you want to join, you can let us know. But just to let you know ahead of time, if you can't join now, we'll keep offering it in the future as well. So just as I mentioned, to do a few minutes scene setting before I hand over to Sam. The quote I've included there is from a recent BBC article, so we know that this is very much in the headlines, at the top of everyone's agenda, how we're getting back to the office safely and sustainably, and we know that there are lots of issues and opportunities. We've seen a rise in, for example, single-use PPE. We've seen questions around whether it's still okay to use reusable water bottles and cups, and then we've got kind of broad issues around heating whole office spaces if they're going to have far fewer people in them. But we also know that there are lots of opportunities. So we've seen better air quality in our cities, and we're hoping, that we've seen a rise in cycling, and people are going to carry on doing that in the future. And from our conversations with lots of our members, we also know that loads of paper use has decreased massively. So another unexpected environmental benefit there. And we've also seen lots of conversations around innovative office partitions, touch-free technology. But I'm not going to say anything else on that. I'm going to hand over to Sam and our amazing panel of speakers who have been doing loads of stuff in this space. So Sam, take it away.
Thanks a lot, Kendall. So thanks everyone. We're going to do some introductions to our excellent panelists in a moment. I just want to kind of frame the conversation and the types of questions that we're going to be asking today. So broadly, they're going to fit into probably about 5 categories. And they will be facilities management. So we're going to be trying to understand how we manage and interact with the physical environment that we work in. There'll be around flexibility. So how agile we can be and should be when the landscape that we work in changes so rapidly. Communication is third. So how we manage concerns and well-beings of our employees, customers and colleagues and share that message effectively. technology. So understanding the tools that we have at our disposal, be they existing or newly designed solutions. And then finally, the environmental impact. So looking at the pitfalls and the opportunities brought about by the pandemic. So without further ado, let's move on and introduce our guests. So if everyone could turn their cameras on, please. We want to see your lovely faces. So I will start with Simone. She's in my top corner. So Simone, could you just let us know who you are, what you do, where you're from, and what that's all about? And I believe you're on mute, so that's our first tech pitfall of the day. You get a point for that.
Fell at the first hurdle there. Hi everybody, thank you for having me here. My name's Simone Heimarch and I'm MD of Commercial Group. We are an office services company and we support our clients in many key areas, back office, that help them run their offices smoothly. So whether that's designing the office, space planning the office, putting everything in floor to ceiling, and finally the furniture in, or whether that's printing, how people print, delivering their office supplies using smart technology, we're there to support our customers.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Simone. Claire?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Claire Elliott, the Technical Design Director for Octra. At Octra, we have designed and built over 14 million square foot of inspiring office spaces since 2007. I'm here because when COVID hit, we managed to keep all of our building sites open and live, and this is including our new office at Hatton Gardens. And approximately 2 months ago, we actually opened our office to 23 people safely if they wish to use it. And 2 weeks ago, we launched a further 58 workstations, safe workplaces. And we've already welcomed about 80% back of our team. So the point of this is that we used our journey, our knowledge and our experience to take our clients, our consultants, our contractors on the same experience, because we're just here to help others, and we've been through it and we're still going through it.
Brilliant, Claire. Really look forward to kind of diving into that a little bit deeper later and learning what you can share with everyone here today. Matthew?
Morning all, I'm Matt from Elliott. We're a 100% sustainable transit packaging company based in Northamptonshire. We're predominantly a B2B business, and I think when COVID and lockdown struck, a lot of our customers were kind of a big question mark over what they were doing. So with our manufacturing team and innovation team, we kind of looked at what can we do as a sustainable business to kind of help businesses protect themselves with COVID, and kind of how to return to the office, and also looking at working from home users. What do they need to do to kind of be a sustainable worker from home? It's been really interesting, and I think it's quite ironic a bit that probably all still working from home, and we're all on about going back into the office. But no, interesting.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Matt. So we're going to start off with some questions, and I want this to kind of be a dynamic as chat as possible. So some of them are going to be fairly broad. I'll direct them at some of you, but if you guys want to jump in, or if this is something that you've got much to add on, let me know and we can move on. So the first one goes into the kind of facilities management question, and it's pretty broad. So how can businesses prepare the workspace ready for reoccupation within the limits set by social distancing and health advice, and do so in a way that considers the environment? So Simone, I'll start with you. That's okay.
I think, talking with people, clients that we've worked with and ourselves, because we've obviously had to get our offices back to working order, the first thing is to look at what the government guidelines are with regards to social distancing, and then look at the way your offices are laid out. And that's what we did, and that's what we've done with all of our clients. And we've got lots of different modelling, because that's changed from 2 meters to 1.5 meters to 1 meter, and you're not quite sure of where you are. And what we did, and we've done with a number of our clients, is take desks out, because that allows you to really have that space and utilise that space, and also have a really inviting space that doesn't look empty when people are coming into it. So it feels like a lovely space. So that's kind of the first point, to work out how you keep that distances and in the areas, and then to consider your collaborative areas and your meeting areas, possible meeting points, and your areas of coming into the office and out of the office. So we had a good team that we put together to work on internally. Generally, our clients have put together their own team, and then we come in there to advise them as well. Obviously, we utilize smart technology as well. So that's a wonderful way to be able to not only make sure you've got that social distancing happening, but you're tracking where everybody's been. So should something happen in the future, there's an outbreak or somebody's ill, you're able to know exactly who was where when, and you're completely utilizing everything as safely as you possibly can. And possibly we'll talk about the smart technology a little bit later, but hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that removing of the desks, it can be seem like quite a harsh move to take, but it's really necessary, because I think in our human nature we want to work together and be close with our colleagues, especially since we've been away for so long. So,
I completely agree. For my brother and I, first thing we did was, with the team, was went around and put stickers on everything that was going to be removed, and it was quite terrifying. Walking around thinking, wow, what's this going to look like? But actually, I'd say it looks a lot better. Now it's all out. We made it look really good, and we've deep cleaned and everything else. There's that element of space, and space is a wonderful thing.
So Claire, so Okta, obviously, your modus operandi is making beautiful spaces. So I imagine this has kind of affected the way that you've done that. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when COVID hit, I think it was week 1, we suffered from overload. We were absolutely fed up with assumptions and products and everything that was coming out on the market that hadn't been thought about. The sustainable products came out slightly later, and people just, we were like, wait, it's going to happen. So what we did was, to prepare the workspace, we had to prepare the people. So the very first thing we did was send a survey out, and we have regularly sent that same survey out just to check the sentiments, because they're changing as the government guidelines change, they change. So what we said is, well, we were heading for what we thought the office was going to look like, because we designed it in Christmas time. We were on site. But actually what we did was we stopped, we took a breath, we asked people, well, what is the function that they're now going to be needing? And we adapted our office to suit that. So the people have really formed what our office looks like now, and also how it operates. Now, for sustainability, we're all responsible for sustainability. All of us are. So if we can get the people on board and get the people on the journey, then the workplace can follow. So with Simone removing desks, we've looked at that. We've looked at stickering. Desk booking has worked for us. But the main key thing is to make that workspace inviting. People have been shut away at home. They don't want to come back to a clinical environment. They want to come back to a well thought out, well prepared, well communicated workspace.
Brilliant, thanks a lot. And Matt, I understand that Palite have, you've pivoted somewhat as a business. You've taken stock and seen, okay, well, this landscape is changing, and there's an opportunity for you here. So I understand that Palite have worked to kind of slot into this area of making workspaces, work for social distancing and then also environment.
Yes, I think the
about that.
Yeah, the big thing when we looked at this kind of market, especially from a sustainability point of view, is that there's a lot of plastic on the market because you can wipe it and it's easily accessible. But what's going to happen to all that plastic, PPE, once this is all over? It's just going to probably end up in landfill because people consider it to be contaminated. They won't want to reuse it, won't want to recycle it. So our honeycomb material and the recycled plastic we use kind of gives that flexibility from a sustainability point of view, where once this is all over, it can just go in your recycling. It's a low investment considering plastic, but we came from it from 2 points of view, because we are a manufacturing business. You've got your offices that you need to protect your office employees, but from our point of view, probably one of the biggest things for us as a key worker are our manufacturing team. Without them, we aren't shipping goods out to our customers, we aren't manufacturing goods. So we took the stance of kind of, unless you need to come in, you're not coming into the office. need to really protect the operations team more than anything. We looked at things like a rota, so if you do need to come in, limit the amount of people in our offices. Only kind of coming in if you've got CEO approval, and you have to make a really good case. And I don't think you kind of appreciate how much you can get done on Zoom or a web call, especially when you're talking to customers or suppliers. It might feel a bit like QVC, showcasing all your products, but it's the same kind of conversation you'd have if you were face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been one thing, you know, for us at the Planet Mark as sustainability professionals, we've been trying to get people to, you know, stop those flights, do it over Zoom, and there's so much pushback for such a long time, and I think this is going to really facilitate that, you know, that step change in thinking. So Matt, you really touched on there the real kind of safety impact and protecting people, because, you know, it is a dangerous, you know, thing that play down what the pandemic is. So personal protective equipment is, you know, PPE is all we heard about for a long time. And Simone, I know that, you know, so commercial as an office supplies company, you know, the business has obviously changed quite a lot from where, you know, it might have been a lot of paper and all these kind of things. And there's been a bit of a pivot, I understand. So what protective equipment is necessary to protect employees?
I think you have to listen to the experts depending on what area you're in, and you also have to listen to your staff as well. It's what people feel very comfortable with. Obviously that's changed, swung from mask to no mask to back to masks. So the protective equipment depends on the job that you're doing. It depends on who you're with and where you're going, but that can be gloves, masks, aprons, to absolutely full PPE equipment when you're absolutely at the front line. So it's an absolute array of equipment there.
Yeah, and so I was going to say, so what kind of, so different offices, different businesses require those different degrees of this.
Yeah.
How much, you know, just for your regular, you know, office, what kind of stuff are those people buying?
Well, everybody is buying sanitizer. Many are buying masks, and many are distributing masks out to their staff, especially as those who are going to commute. Quite a number are buying gloves, so they tend to be the most standard PPE type of equipment. And then there's lots of different types of masks, and then there's a lot which companies that have bought screens, etc., you know, which is a protection area, although that's not personally on you. Those are the main key areas.
Yeah, cool. Did either of Claire or Matt, did you have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, we've because we've kept our building sites open. On the building sites, we added pop-up wash hand basins. So they're very small, but you can put them on the entranceways, exitways, if you're touching a staircase or whatever. And that's got a heating element. So that's our first and foremost for washing hands, and then sanitizer was the second. So we've got that in our office, and it works really well.
Right.
A bit like Claire, we've got our sanitizer stations that offer kind of...
Matt, was there anything you wanted to add on that point?
We've got our sanitizing stations that's like alcohol gel, but we also implemented measuring visitors' temperatures as they come in, just so kind of very low tech, but just so we've got a log if anything does happen. It kind of just helps us pinpoint what day, who it was, and in reality turn them away if we don't feel safe that they're in the building.
Brilliant, thanks.
I would add to that common sense and respect is a PPE measure.
Absolutely.
A lot of people are worried about coming back to work because they're worried about how their colleagues will behave. So, you know, it's respect for yourself and others, and gentle reminders about sanitizing and cleanliness and booking a desk and not using it if someone else has exited it.
Yeah, that kind of leads on quite nicely to a point around the communication piece. So how are you demonstrating engagement and communicating with employees, as well as clients and customers, to demonstrate a commitment to creating a safe and healthy workplace, still with sustainability in mind? So I've got on here that was going to be directed at you, Claire, but feel free, anyone else who wants to jump in as well.
I mean, yeah, so this is so key to us, and the survey was our starting point. And the survey also helped us with couriers coming. You know, it was about protecting people that that we touch base with, which was couriers, postmen, delivery drivers, you know, dropping off samples, reps and things like that. We've also opened our office, but in a very restricted manner, to some clients, because we were really missing the client interaction. Teams is great, Zoom is great, but you still miss that one-to-one interaction. So communication is essential. We've got super clear signage, and we tailored it to music titles because we wanted to have a bit of fun. The government gives you guidelines. You can put this very aggressive 2 meters, don't come in here, don't go there. We put music titles. We did a graphic element, so people know that when they move through the office, they look for a certain image, and that's their COVID signage. We've also got digital displays around the office, and so any updates that come from the government or come from us, we can update through that. And then Teams is fantastic for getting the whole of our company listening into the same message at the same time, and they can ask questions on Teams afterwards. So communication is super key.
Brilliant, thanks. Yvonne or Matt, would you like to add anything there?
I think there's been some wonderful parts of communication, some wonderful changes that have been made in communication, where I'd say Commercial is a really communicative company with internally and externally. And we've really grown in areas through utilising Teams, which is a product that we sell through our IT services division, but really utilising that. We had that, we sold it, and then suddenly that's how we've communicated. So I have a call every morning with my leadership team. I'll have anywhere from 16 to 30 people on that call. So there's a really consistent message, but then they are able to take that to their teams. So whether their teams are on furlough, they have had a call all the way through once a week. And some of them are speaking to their teams daily, who are working with them daily. So it's that, again, that consistent message. We've done that all the way, you know, over the last 5 years, had a message that's come from the leadership, and then we've done train the trainer sessions. So for instance, in moving back into the office, there was a PowerPoint presentation which was put together. The leadership team were taken through it, and then they could take their staff through it, so that, you know, when you get 30, 40, 50 people on a call, some may not ask the questions that they need to make. So we broke it into those smaller teams. I think let's talk about some challenges, because we're not really talking much about challenges here, but I think those small teams for us, that's worked really well. And I think we've become closer than we've ever been before. I mean, we've all been through something really significant together. So how do we make sure that we keep that culture, that beautiful culture that we've created as an organisation? I've always believed that sustainability has helped us build the culture that we have at Commercial. It's the best thing that's ever happened in our history. And I feel I'm doing a lot of presentations now to clients on our social value report. And I really see it as a way of connecting those various divisions and the different, the different age groups through the company as well, and getting involved in some projects that aren't necessarily just doing your job, because a lot of us are working like harder than we've ever worked before. There isn't the distraction sometimes at home that there can be in the office. So there's those wonderful projects that we can collaborate on sustainability and pushing the company forward in that area.
Brilliant. That's great. Great to hear that sustainability has been so key in your journey. And I think you've been planning mark holder for 6 or 7 years now, and it's
I was trying to work it out before, actually, because I knew that was a question you're going to have for quite some time. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have had a note of that, but I know you've been in our kind of course for a while. So that's great to hear. Yes, brilliant. Matt, is there anything you wanted to add on that point?
We've done kind of exactly the same as what Simone and Claire have done. We have a 10 o'clock catch-up call with heads of department, just more of a kind of round robin. Is everything all right? Are your team all right? We've got a really good local forum who kind of help disperse council guidelines if we're kind of different from what's happening all over the UK, and we again disperse that. One thing I think when we speak about health and safety as well, especially all of this lockdown, is mental health. So we've done kind of mental health toolbox talks and just kind of catch-up calls with with every members of the team who you may necessarily work with, just to kind of have that break from your day and just kind of a quick catch up, so you're not kind of just solely focusing on work from working from home, and kind of your 9 to 5 at the moment isn't necessarily your 9 to 5. It could be 8 in the morning till 7 at night. So just having that little break just really helps.
That's really helpful. So apologies there. I think possibly that might have been my internet dipped slightly, so I did miss a little bit of what you said, but everyone else heard what you said there. So in terms of like flexibility, so you know, this initial return to work is only the first phase in kind of quite a long transition to a new normal. So why is it important to remain flexible in planning so that businesses can adapt to such rapidly changing circumstances? I'll open that to anyone who wants to kind of jump in.
I think it's been the most critical, absolute most critical thing for just about any business, and to remain that way. And I mean, our core business dropped to 15% of what it was right at the beginning. And, you know, as a business, we really had to evolve to move into PPE because we needed to keep the business open. We had some frontline and business critical customers that we had to offer that amazing service to. And that I feel quite blessed in that area. At the beginning, it was like, yikes, what are we going to do? But you know, we really moved into making sure that we could provide our customers and future customers with the products and services that they needed, which is constantly evolving all the time.
Yeah.
So I call it remaining smooth inside. You know, it's a mental thing. It's funny, we were just talking about mental health, but I think it's that ability to try not to be overwhelmed as leaders in the business, and to try and support everybody and listen to what everybody is saying and listen to everybody's ideas. I think we've become much better at listening as a business, and by listening, that's what really helps you evolve.
Yeah, thank you.
As I said earlier, people are forming, you know, workspaces, work offices and things like that. They're forming it. I think what's interesting is, you know, Simone talked about Teams, and it was a product of hers. We tried for 2 years to get people onto Teams, and COVID got us onto Teams within 24 hours. I mean, you know, you've got to look at this. And so then it's celebrating the fact that people can cope with change, and so they now can adapt. And they can, so now we've got to keep that energy and keep the training, keep the, so that we can give the technology out there, and then we can have that flexibility for people. So many people are enjoying the fact that they could work from the office for 1 or 2 days. They could work, from home, they could work from a cafe. And that energy, I think, and that balance with life and work is phenomenal. And wellness, as you said, mental health and wellness is so important. And the fact that we are not encouraging people to come back to the office, we are by giving them a safe environment, but the decision is theirs. But the people that have come back, we've seen a massive change in them, in their mental well-being. And the collaboration and the inspiration and everything like that is happening because we've been flexible.
I think it's a lovely combination which we're going to be able to have, because it's great for the environment as well. If I think about, I think it's about 40% of our emissions through fuel are through people commuting to and from work, and it's all that time that they're commuting and everything else. So there's this ability to be able to feel like you're far more productive, and also be in the home and put a wash on and do those things that you do. And then have that lovely interaction, which is so exciting when you get into the workplace. And I think what we've got to do, I'm not concerned, you know, yes, what we do is provide support for offices, but those offices are going to change and they're going to become something else. And, you know, we're going to be part of creating that evolution and supporting that evolution as it happens. And the offices are going to become something different, more exciting, an ability to make them more exciting, have more space, have more areas to be able to collaborate, and then have that time where you can quietly go and work from home. And I think, you know, technology, I keep saying all the way through, you know, technology and creativity are going to be the things that get us through this and get us through intact. And I know from us as well, the sale cycle has become much shorter, because it's much easier to get people to all this new phrases you've got, jump on a call, I'm going to ping you a thing, and all of these kinds of things that we've got now where, you know, we can get 5 or 6 people on a call. You couldn't get them into a business, a customer, that we were trying to collaborate with that customer and get all of those ideas from what they need from IT and what they need from facilities and everything else. We can get that information quickly, listen to that information, then pull something together and come up with something far better and move things forward in a faster, better pace, really.
And I think, you know, the flexibility of commute as well, we've got to look at that. I mean, we're all, you know, we're talking, well, I'm potentially talking London, we've got offices north and south, and their commute is very different, but we've got to make sure that, you know, people are comfortable coming into work on public transport. And so the landlord, for example, has just opened up a whole two new rooms of cycle storage. And we've got a really good process in place for using the showers, because we're encouraging people, you know, don't use the bus, run in, cycle in, that sort of thing. So we're seeing that flexibility with our staff as well.
We've got one of the products that we're really talking to a lot of companies about and selling a lot into companies right now is the smart desking. But we have a function where you can include showers, you can include car parking spaces, you can include how long meeting rooms need to be left for, etc. So, you know, there is an ability for people to safely, you know, use other modes of transport to be able to come in, you know, and get the exercise, which is so good for us.
Yeah, but also that's a comfort thing. So that makes people feel comfortable and safe to come to work. But it also allows the office manager to look at numbers, occupancy numbers, usage.
Yeah.
Really, really important.
I think there's another conversation that's kind of the flip of this, and we need to appreciate that people aren't going to feel comfortable coming into an office whatsoever until this is all kind of finished. So from a Palight's point of view, our biggest flex was, well, how do we make workers from home feel comfortable? Sometimes things like your ironing board as a desk doesn't quite cut it. Kids want their dining room desk back, or the breakfast bar. And like I said at the beginning, we created a range of pop-up desks that allow people to work from home for just a quick office space.
That's great.
But our biggest flex with being a B2B business is it's lovely and good selling to big customers, but we needed to really hit that consumer market. So we've kind of shifted a bit and kind of looked at e-commerce, greater social media presence, just to kind of get the word out there. And that then kind of really helps our sustainability plight, because it's a sustainable product that we're selling that kind of helps people feel green, but then also it kind of really helps scream and shout about Palight's activity and raise awareness for things like the Planet Mark.
Yeah, that kind of engagement and then communication. I think communication is always a tricky thing with sustainability, and making sure that your story is, you know, watertight, because people can be skeptical about these kind of things. And I think that's one area where the Planet Mark really, you know, helps our customers. I'm sure you'll agree, you know, Simon and Claire there. So with kind of sustainability in mind, you know, what are some basic behavior changes that you've implemented before and after lockdown? How do we keep that momentum going and, you know, take some of these, you know, silver linings that we've had, you know, from a sustainability perspective with the pandemic, and keep that momentum moving forward?
Paper free. I believe we can build from concept to site paper free, and this has been, thank you. I don't wish COVID on anyone, but it really has shown people that they can learn new programs and that they can go paper free. It's immense.
Oh,
I would probably say, sorry, go on, man.
Go on, you go.
I think one of our biggest things, especially when we look at our sales team, is business travel. Is we aren't travelling to customer sites, say based in Glasgow or down in Devon. We aren't having overnight stays. Kind of everything and anything is done via Zoom or Teams now, and that has just helped immensely with our CO2 footprint. And then just reiterating Claire's, paper free, brilliant. It kind of just highlights, if you don't need to print it, then don't print it. Dual screens, triple screens, way forward, email attachments, all that kind of stuff. It just really helps.
I think it's So it's the agile working more than anything. So it's that ability to be able to work anywhere, and we're all saying that within Paperless, you can't carry a print around with you. You know, so you've got to be able to flow documents in a way that flow the best, whether that has to be something which is a legal letter which has to go to somebody at the end of the day, but you can work agilely wherever you want to in the world and have that sent out, whether that be how you access Teams, how you access your documents, that you're able to access them easily and efficiently. It's that real agile working that allows people to, I don't think anybody wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and spend 7 hours in the car to have one appointment, but it regularly happened before this, you know. I don't think anybody wants to carry loads and loads of paper around, but it regularly happened before this. So it has that, like anything, there's lessons to be learned, there's evolution for us to have, there's areas for us to grow in, and there's so much that we can take out of this as businesses and to help our clients as well.
Brilliant, thanks so much. I think that kind of nicely rounds off this area, kind of ending on a sustainability piece. Unless there's anything else you guys wanted to add, I think we'll move on to the audience questions now. And I believe we've got some in the Q&A section, some in the chat section. So if anyone watching wants to add a question, please fire it into that Q&A area. So to start off, we've got a question from Flavia Scott, an ex-Planet Mark alumni. So we've touched on this slightly, but it'd be great to kind of dive into it a little bit deeper. So how are you advising employees with regards to using public transport into work when they can go into the office, both from a COVID risk assessment and sustainable travel perspective?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they have to be comfortable travelling into work. You can't force anybody to go into certain situations. I think once they've done the first journey, they realise, I mean, when I did my first journey, I was so anxious, but they realise actually that there are measures in place, and that, you know, if they respect the measures, then other people will respect the measures as well. We would love all of our teams to come back, but we are, because of the survey, we can find out who's still vulnerable, who's still at risk and things, and keep that private and respect that. On a sustainability travel perspective, people have done this themselves. They've said, you know what, I need to come in the office, I want to come in the office, and I'm going to walk, or I'm going to cycle, or I'm going to do this sort of thing. And then we look at our sites and who's actually on those sites, and where possible, we will cite the people closest to those sites so that we can reduce travel. And so we can be clever, like Simone said, we can be clever, with what we do to encourage people to come back.
Brilliant, thanks for that. Mon or Matt, do you have anything to add there? I mean, I'll add, myself personally, I think everyone at the Planet Mark is sick of hearing me talk about cycling, because it makes up about 50% of what I talk about. But I think it's such this pandemic has proved such a great opportunity for people to get out there on their bikes. The numbers of participation have just flown through the roof. It's been really great with taking my hat off to the government with some of the things that they've done with regards to their, schemes to, £50 free voucher to help people get their bikes out of the garage. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get one of those vouchers, though I wasn't their key demographic for that incentive. But it's really important that businesses are able to offer flexibility in terms of working hours. For example, I know a lot of people are scared to ride their bikes, and I, speaking from a personal perspective, I was a few years ago. All I heard in the news was London cyclists crushed under the bus and all these horrible things, but it's not that bad. And I think what people learned in the, through lockdown is that less traffic on the roads, they're a bit more comfortable. So if businesses are able to say, okay, well, maybe you don't need to be office at 8:45, you can come in at 10 when, when the roads are a bit clearer. So offering that flexibility, looking into the cycle to work scheme, making sure that's an option available to your employees, and yeah, investment in shower facilities, that kind of thing, because there's nothing worse arriving at work on, you know, a day like today with a huge, great big sweat mark on your back where your backpack's been. So there's all sorts of stuff that can be done there. So yeah, so that's
we left it very much for each manager, again, within their calls with their team, to speak to their teams as a whole and then speak to their teams one-to-one. And you know, we've had flexible working in place, but not to the extent that it will be. And I absolutely trust my leadership team to allow absolute flexibility wherever they can to any individual in that team. And I think, you know, the other thing through this period is people have been homeschooling children that they've had to look after. So they've learned to work far more flexible hours and realized that actually that could work for them better. So, you know, that sort of ability to come in at different times and work from different times, and that really suits, you know, the business. Productivity can be better in certain areas. So again, it's an area that we've all been a bit afraid of, and suddenly thought, well, yeah, this works. This really does work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always been a, you know, a classic thing for so many years. People saw a working from home day as a, you know, feet up in front of Jeremy Kyle day. And, you know, the fact is that the studies are out there, and, you know, we've proved during this period that that's not the way people work. You know, people have jobs to do and they take it seriously.
The opposite. I've literally with my leadership team said, guys, you know, we can't afford to burn out. And we have a kind of different theme of a call each day, and our Monday call is about what we're going to do work-wise, what we really would like to get done for the week, and then, you know, what we're doing to put our own oxygen mask on outside of work. Because there were times when I was getting up and I literally looked like John Wayne, and I'd sat in the same position for 7.5 hours. So it's like, myself, you know, and it's so important that it's the opposite. You know, I think that would be the joke. Everybody's going to watch Jeremy Kyle and put their feet up and all the rest of it, but actually forcing people to not overwork during this period and when they're working at home. I say to my brother quite often, you know, you've got somebody who walks down the office and they're having a little break for 10 minutes, and what they might do is disturb 5 other people in the middle of it for a few minutes each. And actually what they should do at home is have their sort of break for 10 minutes, you know, get up, stretch, walk around, go for a short walk or something like that. And they're not distracting anybody else. So actually I think productivity can be higher when people are working from home.
Matt?
Pretty much the same. I think one of our biggest things is we're a relatively small team, so burnout is quite a high risk factor for us. And just having that 10-minute, even if it's just a Zoom call, you just have 10 minutes just to make a coffee and sit in the garden. It's just so productive when you come back to your desk, because before long you just get tired eyes. We all know that the heat isn't helping the last couple of weeks. It is that thing. And then I think the biggest thing is, well, don't feel guilty that you're taking a break.
Yes. Everybody
else is having a break. Just because somebody tries to call you on Teams, don't feel guilty that you haven't answered.
Definitely. So moving on, so we've got a question here from Claire Leonard. So how can we advise employees on the safety of reusables rather than relying on single-use plastic, particularly for food consumption? There's very little scientific research out there yet, so I think that's a bit of a caveat there, that it is something of an unknown. But has this come up with you guys in your offices?
Well, we had a quick chat about this because we're quite a nice cooperative team, so like tea rounds and stuff, everyone kind of chips in. Not anymore. If you want a drink, make it yourself. Kind of bring your own kind of reusable coffee cups and materials, and then just wash them up yourself. It's just kind of taking ownership. That's what we've been doing.
Yeah, we've seen a massive change of, you know, there's no food sharing. We've got a beer tap. We always had beer on a Friday, you know, that's closed. Sorry. But, you know, people, they're bringing in their food and they're bringing in their containers and they're washing it up themselves. I think that's a massive positive in the business.
We did a project probably about 2 years ago on looking at reducing the use of single-use plastics in our offices, and we went to local food places and said if we bought our own, and this was through our change champions, and that worked really well. But I think again, this is going to be a time which seems quite fitting, because obviously there has been a lot of disposable PPE which has had to have been out there for obvious reasons. And I think when people are coming back into the office, we're going to start to see, I feel we're going to see a reduction as people bring in their own products, etc., which will be great.
Yeah, it's definitely going to remove the the classic office confrontation of plates in the sink and no one's making me a tea round. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Exactly.
So Rob Hart is interested to hear how businesses are balancing the desire to bake in the wins from the lockdown, such as paper-free, zero travel, 15-second commutes, etc., with the desire to return to a degree of face-to-face interaction to fuel collaboration and innovation.
I missed some of that. Hold on.
Yeah, so a moment to digest that. Essentially what he's saying is, we've definitely got a lot of ease and we've got some wins here, but at the end of the day, being in the same place as someone, it doesn't necessarily always compare. How can we kind of resist that urge, and how do we balance that?
Well, I think lockdown, like with Zoom and Teams, proves that it does work to some extent. I just think the frequency of actually having these customer visits, supplier visits, isn't always necessarily valid. If you can have a quick 10-minute on web conferencing, then why not do that? Why not choose that as your kind of first port of call? Only go to these sites if you need to.
I think that people have got a lot more comfortable. Like at the beginning, when your face comes up on screen, you're like, oh God. And we've all got a lot more comfortable with having meetings in this way. But there are times when, you need the 4 people in a room to be sticking things up and that kind of generation that you can get. And as long as you can do that in a safe way, it's to be encouraged still. We've had times where we've got together when you get together as 6, and we might have just gone out had a chat about work and then sat and had something to eat together, and it just felt so grateful to be in that position of having that contact again. So I completely agree, but I think it will naturally, as leaders of the business, we have to make sure that people can do it in a safe way, and then encourage, not force people, but just encourage people. And if there's somebody who's not comfortable, use technology, and we've got all of that smart technology there to be able to have them as if they're in the meeting and being able to participate in that meeting as well. So again, it's that agile way of working.
Yeah, I agree. And offices are going to they're going to change. The rebalance from fixed desks or hot desks or whatever is going to change to kind of more client facing and more collaboration and flexible space that you can morph to what it is that you want to do for it. So a lot of people are keeping kind of a day or 2 at home for a lot of meetings and things if you're on screen all the time. And then they're bringing their teams in 1 or 2 days a week for the collaboration, the innovation and things, which we really, really need. And the people that were anxious about coming back and have done that first day felt so much better. And because the business obviously has been supporting flexibility, they can then choose for the next 2 days to work from home. And Simone's point is so critical, that we have to respect the fact that we have got people remote working still, and we have got people that want to be there present. And so we can't just have that
one size fits all.
We can have that quick meeting, but let's just bring your laptop and Zoom that person in so they feel very much a part of it.
Brilliant. Matt?
It's the same, really. I think, looking back at the question as well, I think one pitfall that I think we need to consider from a sustainability point of view is that we're all going to have cracking CO2 figures for overheads and all this kind of stuff for this year. It's keeping that sustainability messaging for next year to make sure that we practice what we preach this year for reporting next year.
Yeah, I mean,
it's definitely going to be a really
first nature, second nature, shouldn't it?
Yeah, that issue around CO2 and working from home, it's a really interesting one, particularly with reporting and and what we do at the Planet Mark, and I can assure you that we've got a crack team on it, working to make sure that we can incorporate that and really take some key learnings from this period. So I think that question wraps things up quite nicely. There's one very quick one on e-scooters and e-bikes. What are our thoughts? I'll take that quickly. I think they're really great. I think it's an excellent opportunity to get people who maybe don't feel confident in their fitness to cycle. I think it's a really great opportunity, and with Cycle to Work scheme's been increased in terms of the amount of money you can spend on these kind of things, so people now can get these on that scheme as well. So all really good. E-scooters are very fun as well, just be careful. So cool, so that wraps things up on that bit. So thanks everyone for their questions. I think we got through all of those, and thank you again to all of our panelists. I believe yeah, so that wraps it up nicely. So just finishing on this slide, tell you a bit more about the Planet Mark. You have the power to make a world of difference. That's our our key message. What we're trying to do is create a community of like-minded businesses, so we can be a collective force. We feel that when we bring business together, we can really create big change. And yeah, it's a wonderful community to be part of. I'm sure all of our panelists will agree with that. So if you do want to know more about what we do, feel free to get in touch. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam, and thank you so much, Simone, Claire, and Matt. Honestly, I was making loads of notes. It was amazing. Thank you so much. So interesting, and loads of information. Such a content-rich conversation. I just wanted to, as usual, finish on some next steps and the final logisticy bits from our side. As Sam mentioned, please get in touch if you have any questions. We're going to include Simone, Claire and Matt's contact details in our follow-up email. So, and actually we managed to answer all our questions today, so we won't have any of those. The other thing I wanted to add, and Andrew's just popped up, which is excellent news, is that we're actually going to be running a networking session straight off the back of this, which I think, Andrew, do you want to say a little bit more about that now?
Sure. Do you want to quickly run the poll just so that we gauge how many people are up for this? So essentially, this is something that we've done in a number of formats, but basically it's an opportunity to connect with other like-minded people who have also come along and enjoyed today's webinar, where we can have more open discussion about your own reflections on how your organizations are looking at returning to offices, and discuss some of the ideas from today. So if you could jump on and answer the poll, and we'll leave it up for another sort of like 10 seconds, and we'll get a sense as to whether or not anyone's actually going to come to the networking. If people are keen to come across, I certainly will be traveling across there, and we'll share a link in the chat to a Zoom meeting. And we'll go into that, and then depending on numbers, we'll either go into breakout groups and sort of into groups of 4 or 5 people to connect, get to know one another, and discuss some of the things that we've learned today. So what's the results of the poll, Kendall? I can't see it.
I wondered if you could or not. So we've got 5 for yes, definitely. 63% are yes, they'd love to, but they have a meeting and would like to join next time.
That's going to be always the tricky one. But let's do it. Let's put out I'll share the link in the chat, and let's head across. Because even with 5 people, we can have a good chat. And reflect back on what we've learned and head across this. So is there anything else you wanted to cover off before I start encouraging people to move, Kendall?
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to move on to our final slide, which has our lovely Planet Mark holders speakers on, just to say a massive thank you again. And for those who are able to join, please do come into the networking session. I'll stay here with this beautiful slide as a holding point while Andrew moves everyone over into the networking session. But that's it for me.
Excellent.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool, thanks everybody.